Lucille Kring, and welcome to Kring's Corner. This week I have two very special gentlemen as my guests, and they have such incredible bios that, so I don't miss a beat, I'm going to read them. Our first guest is Ron Winship, and he, with his wife Anna, have started a production called Parker Longbow. It was established in 1996, and it's to create and develop a variety of media concepts, which include a medical sitcom, a dating show, a major motion picture, and a political talk show. It's called The Cutting Edge, and it's been developed since 1998. And they felt that we just get 30-second sound bites, and they wanted to get more involved and give people a much longer time to actually get their ideas across. They've had such diverse political heavyweights on their show as Bob Dornan, Bill Dannemeyer, Mark Petrecka, Jim Lacey, and Christina Shea. And now they're taking their show Cutting Edge on the road with my next guest, Larry Gilbert. And they're currently under negotiations for a major market radio program in the Los Angeles area. But today they have a call-in, commentary, and interview program called Ron and Larry's Cutting Edge. Now, just a little bit about Larry. He has many, many hats that he wears. He has been active in the political arena in Orange County for a very long time. And he was the campaign manager for the current Mission Viejo Vice Mayor, Trish Kelly, who in 2002, she was the top vote getter, and she defeated a sitting mayor and a mayor pro tem. He is also a co-chair for California's United for Redevelopment Education, or CURE, which is a statewide grassroots network that protects property rights. And in 2000, Larry was the co-recipient of the Orange County Register Faces of Freedom Award, which reads in part, Messrs. Morton, Pilger, and Gilbert have been successful at changing the terms of the debate because they do their homework and have accurately detailed where officials' promises deviate from their actual record. So, Ron, Larry, thank you so much for being here.
It's a real pleasure. Real pleasure to be here. I want to correct a couple of things. There were maybe just a little complex in the reading of it. The founders of Cutting Edge were Bob Dornan, Bill Dannemeyer, and all those listed people that you listed up there. The interviews that we do that Larry and I have done, and my wife Anna, we started that after we did an in-studio with John Morlock back in 2000. And what we discovered was that if we got out amongst them, got in with all the people, and at their location, we might be able to get a little more forthcoming response. At any rate, Larry's been totally, as you said, intrepid and extremely pivotal in the whole process because he does his homework and we do our homework together, and there's nothing that we haven't attempted to do or will attempt to do. So we appreciate you asking us to be on the show. It's fun.
Oh, that's great, because now you're sitting on the opposite side. And you're right, it's probably a lot more fun and easier for the guest if you actually go to their office. They feel more comfortable. Then you can show their plaques and their books and their desk, and it's really nice. But Larry, I read your articles all the time in the Register, and you're kind of like the guru in Mission Viejo. Well, how did you start that?
Well, there's actually two stages. One is my involvement in the political arena, which goes back about 12, 13 years. When I ran for city council myself, I had two mentors. One was Bill Craycraft, who has decided not to run for re-election this year, and Norm Murray, the first mayor of our city.
I see.
And they taught me the ropes, and I have shared that with other candidates, and we've been very successful in our city through the efforts of individuals, as well as a group called the Committee for Integrity in Government that formed about 6, 7 years ago, where we wanted more open government. We wanted the city council to be accountable and realize that they're there to serve us, not rule over us. So we've effected major changes in the city of Mission Viejo in the past 6 years.
Now you said in 6 years, what happened in 6 years?
We've replaced now, with Bill Craycraft's decision not to run, the entire 5 members of our city council, and we also have replaced our city manager and city clerk. And the $6,000 desk is still there.
And he just does this in his spare time, Lucille. He does this in his spare time between shows we do on Cutting Edge. So.
Oh my goodness, well then you have made more than 24 hours in a day.
Yes, there is no such thing as retired.
That's true. You retire, you die, so what's the point? And then, Ron, you've told me that you've gone up and you had a great interview with Bernard Parks, who used to be the police chief in Los Angeles and now is a council
we've
member.
been very lucky. Everyone asks us, well, gee, how do you get those interviews? And all we can say is we don't know.
We don't know.
I have no clue.
You don't
We have no
ask,
clue.
you don't get.
We have no clue. What we do is we write our blue sky sheet and we say, gee, who would we like to go do? And basically that's what we do. You know, we look at the situation and try to analyze, of course, what would be the best thing for our show. But our shows are not scripted. So you walk
Much
into
like this.
absolutely, and you walk into somebody's office that you've never met before, and you've got to relate to them in some way. So we've attempted, because of Larry's great ability to do a lot of research and our ability to do research, we kind of do our homework before we get there, and then do a lot of praying along with it. But I mean, everybody asks us about the Bernard Parks show. We just did a Stephen J. Cannell interview too that was probably the toughest one we've ever done. But both of them are excellent shows in our mind, because the people were forthcoming and they go, I've never seen Bernard Parks like that before.
Oh, really?
And those are people that live in Los Angeles. So that's gratifying. But you know, we don't live on our old news. We look to the new news and look forward to what we're going to be doing in the future. So the radio thing that we've got the opportunity to do right now is extremely exciting, because Larry and I get along to a point.
Well, that's a miracle in itself.
As a result, we figure we can talk for 1 hour, 3 hours, 6 hours. It doesn't make any difference. We're probably not going to run out of material real quick. And so it's fun. It'll be a fun and exciting thing to do, a radio show, you know, and we'll start off with stuff that we can handle and try to move up from there.
Well, the most successful radio people, Rush Limbaugh, Bill Handel locally, John and Ken. Well, John and Ken are in a class by themselves. They just kind of rant and rave and go on. But the other ones, they just really take the paper, the newspaper, and then just formulate their own thoughts. So most people can talk in a microphone, push a button, get a call on, yell at the caller. So,
yeah, it's bringing the creative process to that.
Sure.
In other words, I think what we're Cutting Edge is renowned for is we're not formalized.
Right.
We don't have a system. There's no system involved. We take each person one-on-one. So we're going to take our callers that call into the show one-on-one. We're going to take our interviews that we have with them, more people that we know and have access to, and we're going to do the same thing with them, and it's going to relate. So that's always a challenge, and so you're always as good as your last show, Lucille. You know that.
Well, that's true, but, well, I hope you saw the Bill Campbell show. No, but I didn't mean the fact that anybody can pick up a paper and do a show. That came out wrong. But I meant if you have a passion for something and you're a news junkie and you read a lot and do your research and prepare, you can just go on and on and on. And Rush Limbaugh, they say, well, what are you talking about? He said, only things that I'm interested in. And by his being interested in his passion, then he brings people along with him. And it sounds like you two have that same...
But we have one thing that's different. I'll tell you what that is. We've had numerous discussions on this recently, and one of them is, well, they say you never can change anything. And I think that's a perception out there in the hinterland that, well, it's impossible to change, you know, a city council member, or impossible to do this. Well, of course it's impossible if you only know 10% of the information. If you know 80% of the information, you've got a much greater chance of understanding the issue and making a good and valid decision on it. So that's what we bring on the cutting edge that Larry and I try to do, is bring out, it's sort of an extrapolation of Paul Harvey. You know, like we do Paul Harvey to the extreme.
The rest of the story.
Well, exactly. I mean, I'll give you a good example. I'll just do one for you. So that I thought about this before it came. The Olympics are on right now, right? Okay. How many Muslims are competing in the Olympics today? Well, a lot. How come they don't have to wear hijabs to be in their swimming events and to be in their running events? I mean, they're out there in Paris, France, carrying their signs, screaming, no, I have to wear a hijab to go to work every day. Well, all these are athletes. How come if they feel that strongly about their religion and that particular issue, why don't they force all of their athletes to wear the hijab? So that's a cutting edge issue. Those are things that people don't think about or maybe contemplate, but those are the things. I don't know. You got another one, don't you?
I'm going to give you a couple examples.
Okay.
You want to talk about the research that we have to do, and not everything that's on the cutting edge is political. I'll give you two spectrums. One, we were at the Reagan Library for Investor Business Daily Conference a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And we didn't know in advance which one of the speakers that we were going to have a chance to interview. So we had to research. I think there were 16 different speakers at that
my
event.
gosh.
So we had to do homework on each and every one of them.
That's right.
So that it's like making a sale. You want to connect with the person, find out something about their hobbies, their interests, a little bit of their background, if they've published materials or if they've written a book. It behooves you to know that information. It shows respect for them, and they realize now that you've done your homework.
Sure.
And as Ron says, our program is unscripted. We do not give questions in advance to people. We wing it. We go by what our heart tells us and where we're led. The other extreme is we were down in San Diego at La Jolla for the 50th anniversary of the Double Helix, the DNA show. And we're not scientists, but we had to learn everything about stem cell research and all of the ramifications, and it was unbelievable. And we interviewed Nobel laureates down there, the head of the National Institute of Health.
Wow.
So here again, we still had to know something about them,
Sure.
so they knew what we were talking about. And those programs are up there 24/7, commercial and cost-free. You can't beat that.
Same thing with Cap Weinberger. I mean, Cap Weinberger's the icon. I mean, he's the main man. And so Larry and I had an opportunity. That was probably I think it was one of our shortest interviews. 17 minutes. But you know what?
Rapid
it was
fire.
intense. It was intense. And you can still go back and watch that show today. And as Larry said on the way over here, we were going, we already talked about, what did you say?
2 years ago, we did the show, and we were talking about an exit strategy in the event that we'd be in war today.
Oh my gosh,
We talked
that's
about clear
topical.
and clear and present danger in that whole area. And the people need to watch that show. It runs for about 15 minutes. It's probably 15 questions, and it was rapid fire. And again, we try to be on the cutting edge of the issues as we see them.
Hence your name of your show. Give the website, because your shows are up 24/7.
Yeah, it's www.cuttingedge, all one word, and then a little center hyphen, and then a talk show, ATALKSHOW.com.
All one word.
All one word.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so the viewers can go out and look at that and check you guys out.
And we have about, I think we've done over 36 shows. Most of them are available on the website. They can go either onto one of the pages, California page, Southern California page. I think one of our most popular is Fess Parker, believe it or not, Davy Crockett. That's over on our grab bag page, along with Joan Quigley. And Joan Quigley was Reagan's astrologer. So we've done some extremely different types of shows and try to bring something to the party, and we're going to continue to do that.
That sounds like fun. Oh my gosh, I want
Yeah.
to be on your show. But it's really interesting when you said you can get in depth, and people never saw Bernard Parks the way that you interviewed him. And it's a comfort level because they know that you're not the press, you're not trying to do a gotcha. But it's interesting when you said a 30-second soundbite. When I walk precincts, since I'm running for council again, when I walk precincts, people say, well, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. So, well, how come? Well, that's what I hear on the news. And I say, well, have you considered this, or have you thought about that? Well, how come we don't know about that? How come the press doesn't tell us that? I said,
Correct.
well, because you have to really do your homework. You have to get involved and go dig for yourself sometimes. But it's tough for people. They're busy, they have families, they have jobs, they're 4 hours on the
Understood,
freeways.
but I will give you a good example of a gotcha. We happened to go out, Larry and I went to see President Bush out in Ontario. And by pure happenstance, we did that show. And then by pure happenstance, our good reporter ran out and said, do you understand that Gray Davis, the governor of California, is doing a press conference right after? So we ran over, set up our cameras, and we got in 3 or 4 questions with Gray Davis. Well, that came back to haunt Gray later because, in his own words, he had said a lot of things that weren't true. And as a result, we put that back on the website during the recall and showed everybody what he actually said. And then it was so interesting because we thought if we have something more to say about something, then, and it's not been covered, or we've interviewed the person, they haven't really come clean with everything, then we do what's called a Cracker Barrel at the end. So then we sit out there and look at the building wherever we interviewed them and talk about maybe what they didn't talk about.
So the two of you discuss what they
Right,
should.
we critique
Exactly.
it. We
You're like
critique it
Miss
afterward.
Quigley. You're doing the astrologer thing.
No, it's not that. We just, if they don't come clean with something, we're the first ones to tell them, that wasn't they probably should do a better job. So.
Yeah, well, a politician with a microphone in their face, it's a little nerve-wracking.
So anyway, it was about that gotcha thing, basically, is, what we did with Bernard Parks was hilarious. We asked him a lot of very tough questions. And then at the end of the trail, I just said, okay, enough of the puff piece. Let's go with the real stuff. And we meant it. If we'd had more time, we ran out of tape. Otherwise, we would have really put some stuff to him. But I mean, that's what, sometimes you get great guests like that.
Sure.
That are real guys and just are real people generally.
And that's nice.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, when you get to see them not in their persona as a political figure or a chief of police. And it's interesting with Bernard Park, he is the only one who is supporting Walmart and said, how dare you deny Walmart? They bring us jobs, they bring us services, they bring a tax base. I mean, Walmart now is like the cigarettes of 10 years ago. We all hate them.
Well, there's an issue that we would broach on the cutting edge, for example, on Walmart. Walmart's not all good, I mean, if you take a village, I mean, it depends on what kind of community Walmart's going into. But if you go into a village atmosphere, like Balboa Island, and say, okay, we're going to tear down all the shops on Balboa Island and build a Walmart on Balboa Island, you probably wouldn't get a great response. And so what we're saying is, and if you also, what people tend to do in our society generally, they don't seem to look outside of the box. If you go to Germany or to England or to any of the major countries, the Walmarts, the Costcos are all there. But where are they? They're on the outside of town. And so it's more of that factory mall outlet kind of thing. So people don't ruin their intrinsic baby shops that they have established for hundreds of years.
Sure.
But see, we're in a dynamic society here in California. I mean, nothing's much over 50 years old. So when you get into that situation, then you get the big Walmarts stuck there. But
yeah, that's why it's nice. There are certain cities like Orange, some parts of Brea, definitely Fullerton.
Yeah, things with history shouldn't have Walmarts in the middle of them.
No. And there should be places, but you can't say Walmart is all bad.
No,
because there are
never.
People who, and you mentioned Paul Harvey, that's one of his big sponsors. Larry, he loves Walmart.
Write that down, Larry.
It's a pleasure. Wait a minute, it's a pleasure to be on your show. Talk to us about the choo-choo to nowhere. Let's talk about Centerline.
Yeah.
Oh, Centerline. Yes, Centerline.
I know it's a subject close to your heart.
Yes.
How long would Centerline be if it was really a train?
A block. Anyhow, it's really interesting. Centerline started out a number of years ago as a 29.3 or close to 30 miles,
right.
And then it was going to go from Irvine up to Fullerton. And the interesting part of Fullerton, God love them, they're wonderful, but they wanted to make sure that it took the kids to Cal State Fullerton, and now they have to build that big parking structure because they had no place to park. But they had the train going into the train station, which is miles from Cal State Fullerton, and they had no idea of the feeder system
Real
to get there.
convenient.
So that didn't make any sense. It was close to Fullerton College, but they weren't having a problem with parking anyway. And I can't imagine people from Irvine with many schools there going up to Fullerton College. It just doesn't make sense. And it's much more expensive than, well, I'm not going to say, people know how I feel about the Centerline. You talk about, and you're in Mission Viejo, and you're in Newport. It's never
No,
gonna
what I'm
affect
going to
you.
do is I'm going to drive up to Santa Ana College. I'm going to park my car with my wife. I'm going to get my luggage, and I'm going to take a light rail to John Wayne
Right.
to board a flight.
And miss your plane
Right.
because it's probably got some brake problem that usually happens in the train.
The problem that
You won't make it.
OCTA doesn't recognize, Ron and I both went up and we did speak at one of their hearings in opposition, is that they just want their foot in the door because they've downsized it to make it more palatable from a cost point of view and the objections that they were getting. The minute they get their foot in the door, then believe me, it's going to go all the way up to LA County, and the tentacles are going to go out everywhere.
Because they'll say, gee, if we only went a few more miles, this would be
Then
more
we get the
successful.
ridership up.
Right, the ridership.
It's the train to nowhere. It's the expansion bridge to the moon. It's that constant idea that if we just spend money, it will come around. And I got to make a segue into this one because this has really been a hurdy deal. Is the illegal immigration thing too, and that's one of those things where everybody says, who could pick our fruit if it wasn't for the illegal aliens? And I'd say, Chinese that were legal that would come over here in a heartbeat and fly as fast as they could bring them. But they would be legal and they would follow the rules. And the bottom line to this story about this whole nonsense about illegal immigration is that if you were to take all the illegals out of California today, right, our our freeways would be empty. The Costco's and Walmarts would be empty. You could actually get gas for maybe $1.69 a gallon. I mean, we're talking about the fact that the whole demand structure of California and Arizona and New Mexico and Texas would just fall apart because there wouldn't be anybody buying this stuff. They keep forgetting you add about 3 or 4 million people to a state overnight, and pretty soon the demand for each quality product, you go in and look for a good tomato in the market, you're fighting against illegal aliens that are going in there and know what a really good tomato is. So seriously,
Trust me, you
folks,
need to grow your own. There is no such thing as a store-bought tomato.
But you know where I'm going with all
Sure.
this. I mean, that's the one that's a cutting edge issue. That's an issue that we would bring up and say it's not about holding back, schooling or health care or taking care of these poor illegal immigrants that are coming trudging across the deserts on their hands and knees. It's not that. We don't care who's trudging across the desert on their hands and knees, Al-Qaeda or
Right. And
Argentinians or Englishmen. It doesn't matter.
Right.
If they're illegal, they're illegal.
Well, and that's the problem. We almost have gotten to the point, and there's a lot of discussion in some of these talk shows emanating from LA, and we won't go into that, but even if you just said, okay, everybody who's here is here, and let's do something about that.
We did that.
Because you really can't go in and take everybody out who's been here. But if they would just close the borders, there's something now about the Chiapas Indians who are going into Mexico because they've come up here. The Chiapas Indians don't have any work for them there, so they come in Arandas and then they work in the agave fields because tequila is so important. So it's this never-ending thing. What I'd rather see the Americans do is help those countries establish a middle class, establish an economic base, so there's no need for those people to come here for the economic benefit.
That's easy said, but I'll tell you.
I know it's easily said, but
easy said, but I'll tell you the story. The real story is that the big corporations of America have gone down to Mexico, gone down to Central America, and have pandered to the rich of those countries in order to take control of them politically. So the bottom line is, it would be a fine thing if we could send foreign aid or something, but you know what American foreign aid is? It's F-16s, F-18s, and M1 Abrams tanks. So those things probably won't fly in Chiapas,
Yeah, well, we don't want to get into that.
Let me open another door. Let me open another door here.
We were talking about Centerline. It was such a nice, pleasant conversation.
Same thing as an Abrams
That's an
tank.
easy one.
It's about like an Abrams tank.
Let me change subjects. The governor's got this massive proposal about how they downsize government and save money, which I think has merit.
I do too.
One of the things he's proposing is to offload some of the responsibility to roads to the local cities. Are we going to get the tax money, the gas tax? Are we going to share in any of the gas tax, or is he going to keep that and burden the cities? The other thing is he cut this deal with the Indian casinos.
Right.
Are we going to have a huge Winds casino in the middle of El Toro Airport?
Well, I don't know. It's an interesting thing because there's a proposition on the ballot about card clubs, growing card clubs, and them having basically
68.
casinos. And it's Prop 68. I just heard a commercial now. If we keep doing that, we're going to compete with Vegas. And I don't know. It's nice to have Las Vegas, and it's a 6-hour ride, 5-hour ride, and that's fine. I don't particularly like to gamble because I don't particularly like to lose. And they didn't build those buildings because people are winning. It's just an amazing thing. So to me, I could care less. I've only been to an Indian casino once, and I didn't like it. It was years ago, and I understand it's changed
Go down to
now.
Pechanga. We did a show down there, and it was a terrific
Was
place.
it? I'm
Yeah,
sure it's a
great.
fabulous place, but as I said, I work too hard for my money. I don't like to lose it, and you lose it very quickly. Anyway, but for some people who can handle it, but when you start, even with the lottery, when it gets to be $80 million, people are starting to mortgage their house to buy tickets. Now that's absurd. But the biggest person in gaming is the state of California with the lottery. So when they try to control others, I mean, it's just very
the
hypocritical.
governor wants to, tie that into the Powerball deal, make it $360 million. So, I mean,
It'd be outrageous.
because it's more popular. Everybody knows that when the lottery is 10 or 12 million dollars, everybody goes, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, it gets up around 70, 80, they start talking.
I buy a ticket at that point. I buy one ticket. I mean, they don't get a lot of my money, and because the kids never get the schools, where's that money to go to the schools? That whole system should be audited and looked at because something's awry there. But that's another issue. With Schwarzenegger, in some ways he's doing a good job. In other ways, I don't know.
He's a great governor. He's probably the greatest governor we've had in California since Ronald Reagan, in my opinion. Probably he may surpass him, because I'm serious. This guy has got it together. He's got the right attitude. I mean, who else would call? Name another politician anywhere that would call anybody a girly man. One of the other politicians, and then says it's no sweat off my back. You know, I mean, the guy he's got guts, and he also has. He's got.
See,
class.
we don't agree on everything.
Yeah,
No,
but,
I don't know. I'm noticing this. Me neither.
He's got a lovely wife. I mean, what more do you want?
Okay.
Cut it
I can
out.
think of a million things. But
Let's go back to center line briefly.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be on the ballot and let the people decide
Well, it
where
should be on the
that money
ballot
is going to be spent?
if it's written properly, because they said there's a little line in there with Measure M when in the early 90s the people wanted rail. People did not think that rail line would come through their cities where the medians were just planted with beautiful palm trees that cost a fortune. They didn't realize that was going to be taken up, and 2 to 3 lanes of traffic on major thoroughfares are going to be taken away. They thought it was going to mimic the existing tracks. You know, increase Metrolink, increase Amtrak, great. But what we need is buses. We need little buses that scoot around. We need a scoot system the way they have in LA, where all the buses have synchronized with the lights. So you scoot, and you don't have articulated buses during the middle of the day when nobody is riding them. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and that if bus system doesn't work, you can move it. If a rail system doesn't work, you move the people.
You know, it's interesting how they put the spin on this. They talk about ridership. What they're not telling you is the people that are riding are not the people getting out of cars. It's the people getting off of buses,
Right.
getting onto the choo-choo.
Well, there was we're almost out of time. There was a great letter in the Register a couple of years ago, and I know you write a lot of articles for the Register, and this one said, everybody says, I can't wait for center line because everybody out here is going to get off the freeway, but I'm not getting off, and every single person in every car is saying, I can't wait for everybody to go on center line because I'll have the freeway. But everybody's saying the same thing, and we're all in our cars because we can drink our coffee, you can smoke our cigarettes, put our makeup on, read the paper, and still drive to work. And we can't do that when we're on center line. Well, guys, we're almost out of time, but you made an interesting comment about Mission Viejo. You taught them that they're there to serve us, not to
Rule over us.
More cities and more government should take that to heart. Starting from the feds on down.
It's not about you.
It's not about you. It's a privilege
Pastor
and an
Rick
honor.
Warren's book, first 4 words in the first chapter.
We
It's not about you, not about me.
We just barely let them in the city limits of Newport Beach because we've got the other guys on the other side.
Yeah, that's true. But it's public service. It's a privilege and it's an honor. And
You bet.
And that's all that you can say about it because you are there to serve. It's a very demanding position, very demanding job. That's why there aren't that many. It looks like a lot of people run for office, but truly, in essence, there aren't. Why don't you run for office?
Well, I've done it twice. I'm having too much fun on the
much fun
outside.
there.
You know, we got a city manager who was making $150,000 to $200,000 a year with all of his perks and benefits. And a reporter from the Times calls me and he asked me my opinion. I says, here's a man who was walked out of office by the current council, wanting to serve with that council for a part-time job paying $500 a month. Now, you're going to have to explain that one to me.
What's the population of Mission Viejo?
98,000.
Okay, and Anaheim is about 340 now. We're out of time. Ron Winship.
Hey, thanks so much,
You're
Lucille.
welcome.
Really appreciate it.
Good. And Larry Gilbert, best of luck
Lucille,
in your
thank
show.
you so very
Cutting
much.
Edge of Talk Show.
Yeah,
Pull it
Cutting
up on
Edge-
the web.
Okay.
Change your life.
www.cutting Edge of Talk Show.
Watch those 2 crazy guys.
Yes, Bernard Parks, Cap Weinberger, and this Reagan's astrologer. Who can ask for anything more? You're just so much fun. You'll come back, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is Lucille Kring from KRINGS Corner. Until next time, make it a great week. And God bless you and God bless our men and women in the armed forces.
Amen.